All right, welcome back to the last video in this section. We're continuing to talk about experiments. You will hear about placebos, you'll hear about blind studies, double-blind studies, and you want to know kind of what the difference is. I think a lot of people hear about the placebo effect in real life. We'll talk about the placebo effect in the next section. But a placebo is a pill that does not have active ingredients. So it's a medicine, like let's say I had a blood pressure medicine that was round and white. A placebo would be one that is also round and white, but doesn't have any active ingredient for blood pressure. It acts as a control in this experiment. A blind study and a double blind, or a blind experiment and a double blind experiment, depend on who knows about the treatments being received. A blind experiment is when the person who's receiving the treatments doesn't know what they're receiving. So let's say I am in a study to determine whether a certain pill is going to lower my blood pressure. I don't know whether I received the pill that has blood pressure medicine in it or doesn't have blood pressure medicine in it. That would be a blind study, because maybe me knowing if I got the active ingredient is going to impact my blood pressure. A double-blind study is one in which the person administering the treatment and the person receiving the treatment do not know the treatment that's being administered. A double-blind study is not always necessary. It's necessary when you're measuring something that might be kind of up for debate. Measuring somebody's weight, not up for debate. It doesn't matter whether the person knows which treatment you got or not. When you're talking about measuring somebody's anger level, measuring something that has like a scale that is not straightforward, cut and dry, double blind might be something that you would want to use. Whether I'm talking about somebody's attitude being different, I might think, oh, I know that they got the active ingredient, so I think that they're happier. I don't want to know. So you don't want to know. You just want to be straightforward and not have any bias. So that's the difference between blind and double blind. The next question asks us to consider the multitasking study that was described on page 16. So in this study, we're talking about people who multitask regularly versus those who don't. So on page 16, the study says, you constantly text while you're in class. You jump from one website to another while you're doing homework. If so, then you're a high-tech multitasker. In a study of high-tech multitasking at Stanford University, researchers put 100 students into two groups, those who did a lot of media multitasking and those who didn't. And then they performed 3 tasks. They performed a task to measure your ability to pay attention, a task to the ability to measure the control of your memory, and your ability to jump from one thing to another. And then they said on every task, multitaskers did worse than those who are non-multitaskers. So these researchers concluded that people who are regularly bombarded with several streams of electronic information don't pay attention. They don't control their memory, and they don't switch from one job to another as well as those who can do one task at a time. So when they're in high-tech situations where there are multiple sources of information from external world or emerging out of memory, you're not able to filter what's relevant to your current goal. This failure to filter means that you're slowed down with the irrelevant information. You don't know what's important. So the first question we're asked is, who conducted this research? And this research was conducted at Stanford University. So the Stanford University was the one who conducted. And do you believe this research group is considered to be trustworthy? I do. It's a big university. I wouldn't see why not. It's not like my neighbor down the street just went and asked a bunch of people about multitasking. They carried out a thorough observation or study They organized it well. They sampled correctly, and so there's no reason not to. And was this observational or experiment? I started to say experiment, but this isn't an experiment. This isn't one in which one group received one thing where they were taught to multitask and the other people were not, and then they measured it. It was just they took two groups, those that self-identified as multitaskers and those that didn't, and then they just asked them to perform tasks. So we observed, even though they were doing things, they weren't manipulating, they weren't making these people multitaskers and making these not multitaskers. So this was an observation. Common question that you will get right after being asked whether something's an observation or an experiment. Can you determine cause and effect? No. No causation from observation. I did not ask you why, but you would be asked why on a test. Why is this not, why can't you infer cause and effect? Well, no variables were manipulated or no treatments were imposed. Who performed better? Multitaskers or non-multitaskers? On every single study, non-multitaskers performed better. The last thing that we are asked is which article is the best? Which headline is the most appropriate summary for this study? So let's dissect these three options. The first option was study. Multitaskers bad at multitasking. The next option was from Stanford itself that said media multitasking may make you dumb. And then the third activity, or the third article title says multitasking muddles brain even when the computer is off. We have to think about what's happening here. Number 2 says that multitasking can make you dumb. That's saying something is going to cause you to not be as smart. First of all, we're not determining cause and effect from here, so that's not an accurate statement. And there's nothing about whether you're smart or not. It's just about whether you are able to multitask or not. So I disagree with 2. And then it's down to 1 and 3. What was the study about? Can multitaskers multitask? And no, they can't. The multitaskers are bad at multitasking. That's true. The first option is a good option. The last one that says, even when the computer is off, multitasking muddles the brain. That's not necessarily the best option. We're not talking about the computer being on or off. We're just talking about can they multitask or not? And the result was no. So the best option was number 1. Okay. That's it for this section. We've covered a lot of definitions. As we get further into OLI, you'll also be using StatCrunch to perform calculations. I will, anytime there's a section that requires calculations, I will provide you with a video on how to perform those calculations on StatCrunch. I'll give you guides by me showing you how to do each of these things. I'll show you how to load the data. I'll show you how to perform the specific operations that you need so that you can then practice them on your own. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.